second. Yes, I know this meeting's being live streamed. All right. So we're going to get going this morning. Welcome, everybody. You have stumbled upon Kansas City Oasis. We are the premier secular community in Kansas City and the surrounding areas. I'm Nikki Actipis. I will be your host this morning. So if this is your first time here, welcome, welcome. If this is not your first time here, welcome. And if you're new, we go by a certain philosophy here. So we have 5 core values, and those are: people are more important than beliefs, reality is known through reason, human hands solve human problems, meaning comes from making a difference, and be accepting and be accepted. So along those lines, we have a great lineup today that will hopefully enrich your Sunday morning. So we have our musical guest, Jess, Paige, our community moment, Julie Whistman, and Ben Kacirek is here to be our featured speaker to talk about Satanism. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it right on over to Jess and let her introduce herself a little bit, and I'm going to stop talking.
Hi guys, good morning. It's so good to be back at Oasis again. Some beautiful faces on my screen. Cheers with your coffee if you have coffee with me. Yeah, no, yeah, I see those mugs. Mugs, puns anyway. I'm just gonna get started. This is a song I wrote in the middle of lockdown. This is called Do You See It? Do you ever think about that little house where we might have lived? Not so little or so big. Oh baby, do you see it? I still see it. I can see you walking through the front door. A little table and chair on the front porch where we have coffee in the morning. Do you see it? I still see it. When we were laying on those long winter days, curled into each other in a lover's face. When you would kiss me and say my name. Do you see it? Oh baby, do you see it? When you close your eyes and kiss another, in the back of your mind, are we together? Did we stay together? Our love forever. Oh baby, do you see it? A quiet street with tall trees, lots of kids and families, string lights in the springtime, and lemonade on summer nights. So do you see it? When we were laying on those long winter days, curled into each other in a lover's face. When you would kiss me and say my name. Do you see it? Oh baby, do you see it? When you close your eyes and kiss another, in the back of your mind, are we together? Did we stay together? Our love forever. Oh baby, 'cause I see it. When I close my eyes and kiss another, in the back of my mind, we are together. We stay together. Our love forever. Oh baby, do you see it? Oh baby, do you see it? Oh, do you see it? Oh baby, do you see it? Oh, thank you. I missed the silent clapping of Zoom concerts. It's so fun. Honestly, it's been a while since I've done a Zoom concert, and I'm like, oh, it's actually like really fun to do concerts from my dining room table. I forgot how enjoyable this was. I was too busy enjoying being around people again. um, But I want to do, I know that you are a group of people who enjoy thought and thinking and your minds. And I wrote this next song called Fa La La. It's about essentially how incredible the human mind is for creativity and imagination and the amazing places that you can go when you allow your mind to explore whatever it wants to. Um, we recorded this song up in Seattle about 2 years ago. I was getting ready to release the album, and then COVID shut the world down. And so I've been trying to figure out the best time to release this album. But it's going to be coming to you guys soon. And if you like it, there's a video recording of me performing it with my band at TEDx KC, along with a whole big concert that we did last year, full of my original songs. But this is Fa La La. I mean, if you want to, just like close your eyes and drift away. Fa la la la, left in your own mind. Fa la 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 la. Once you start knocking on open doors, well, the thoughts, they rush in like a thundering horde. They all start to waltz and dance around the room. You sit and you wish you could dance too. Fa la la la, left in your own mind. It's so strange sometimes, left in your own mind. You just want to la la all the time. Fa la 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 la. And walk some friends you forgot you knew. One's a child, one's a mother, the last one is you. Before you can stop and ask them anything, your friends join in the dancing, and you just fa la la, left in your own mind. It's so strange sometimes, left in your own mind. You just want to la la all the time. Fa la 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 la. Pick in the keyhole, blow off the dust from the great wealth of thinking that you love so much. Pull up your skirt tails and dance a little jig. Let these friends lead you to a life you've never lived. You've never lived. You just fall la 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 la. Fa la 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 la, left in your own mind. Fa la 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 la, left in your own mind. Fa la 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 la, left in your own mind. All right. Thank you.
Yay, all the silent clapping,
I
some
love it.
beautiful emojis happening there. So thank you so much for being here today. Before we head on to the next event, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to in the past few weeks, months, whatever. I heard you talking to Jason earlier. You had an event last night.
Absolutely. Yeah. So last night we were headlining Truce to Palooza. I do this collaboration with rapper Kadesh Flow. He's a hip hop artist that plays trombone. I think you guys might have had him
Yeah.
on already. So he and I do this collaboration concert called Deshika Rage. So Desh, Jessica, and we rage. It's essentially like all of the bangers in one concert, and it's just a very high energy. We work with some tremendous Kansas City musicians, and I mean, it's just a really fun show to experience. We let the instrumentalists shred their guitars, and anyway, it's a mad it's a mad experience. But we headlined Palooza last night. I played at the Weston Apple Fest days yesterday as well. I was a guest performer at Irish Fest, and got to sing with Carswell and Hope for their special like showcase of different artists. I played Crossroads Music Fest and headlined that. And I've been touring and playing all like in Arkansas and through Missouri and Colorado, and we're heading up to Nebraska in a couple weeks. So I've been kind of all over, and getting to do a bunch of really fun shows with it was a bunch of different artists. One of my favorite things about music is collaborating, and how the music shifts depending on who you're playing with. Touring feels great. Yeah, I've missed it so much. And we're going to just be booking a lot more, hopefully, coming up. But there's just my favorite part of music is it's a dialogue. I like performance and music to be an expression of the people I'm with, not just an expression of what I have to say. And so I think the thing that makes music beautiful is the coming together of these minds and influences. And so when I'm performing with people, like there's a lot of collaboration and openness for them to really express what they want to through the music, you know. And so I end up in these really cool situations where I'm just playing with these phenomenally talented people and just kind of allow them the space to show how amazing they are and go, okay, guys, go for it. Or I get invited to do the same thing, and it's really cool. We're also playing at Westport Saloon on October 30th. There's going to be a fun Halloween concert. I'll be playing with Lucas Parker Band. He's amazing. Also, maybe somebody you guys should consider having some morning. And we're going to it'll probably be a wild Halloween experience. So put on your finest Halloween attire and come. The last time we played, it was one in, one out. So I kind of recommend getting there a little early and like staking your territory. But it would be fun to see some Oasis crew there for sure. That would be a lot of fun. I think you guys would really enjoy the concert too.
Well, and it sounds like a great Halloween thing to do. And that was what I was going to ask you next was where are you playing next in Kansas City? Because I know I'm pretty stuck to where I'm at with traveling right now because I'm a teacher and I can't go to
Mhm.
many places. So you answered my question without even knowing what it was. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We will hear from you again shortly after our coffee break. So we will say bye for the moment,
Bye.
and we will see you in a little bit. So that was awesome. I hope you all get out and support some local musicians in the next few weeks here. The weather is cooling down. Uh-oh. I don't think you meant to share your screen, Bill, but that's okay. I'm going to share and then stop sharing. There we go. Problem solved. So the weather is cooling down. Bonfire season is upon us. So please, get out, enjoy the weather while you can before you're all snowed in for the winter. And without further ado, this is the portion of our morning where I introduce our community moment. If you are unsure of what a community moment is, it is somebody from our community who comes and talks about something they enjoy, something they need to get off their chest, whatever it is they want to talk about, that is what they are here to do. And today we have our own Julie Whistman. And if I can add the spotlight, Julie, I did not get any words for you, so I'm gonna make something up.
There are no words. There are no words.
Crazy cat lady, I feel like is the appropriate word. Like, and I say that with love in my heart.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna turn it over to you before I get beat up.
Well, that's my whole introduction. I've been called worse than that. And I have a dog now, everyone. So, I mean, now I'm just a crazy animal person, I guess. Wow, y'all get to hear from me a lot. I was trying to put some thought into what I wanted to talk about this morning. And so we're going to go with something that is near and dear to my heart, something that I think is probably something a lot of us do, but I want to talk a little bit about how I got into this activity, which is, I'm going to talk about waste reduction, item reuse, recycling, and repeat. I like this little graphic. It's super cute. I know this is not a controversial topic, except when it is. I've had people that have worked in the waste management industry tell me it's kind of pointless. A lot of the stuff just ends up getting burnt. But I'm going to talk a little bit about why I still do it, why I care about it, why I think you should too, and then just offer a few, highlight a couple of things that are going on with recycling regionally and locally, and then talk about some ways that we can reuse things and how we do that in partnership with some of the organizations that we work with here at Oasis. As with every slideshow, I like to show you this picture of my grandfather. This is Robert Samuel in his small garden of the two behind our house in Central Washington State. I just love this picture. I'm always going to show it. I don't know. I work it into every presentation. It is relevant to this one though, because one thing that he taught me about was composting. And another thing was, my slides are out of order. Another thing is, we'll go to this one, which has to do with reuse. I don't know if you grew up like I did, but if you saw one of the top, in the top row, when we're looking at the Cool-Whip container, the margarine container, and the cottage cheese container, I might go in our refrigerator at home growing up and see a combination of 14 containers about like this. And then it was a fun game of hunt for the leftovers in these containers. This was sort of predated, that gives you some idea. This predates Tupperware and storage containers. The original reuse for these was to store food. And so a lot of times that's where, you would go to look for a snack or to warm up something for dinner in these reused containers. We think of these a lot of times now as being single-use plastics, but you can still find uses for them if these are the sorts of things. If you're not lactose intolerant, I notice these are all dairy things, which I think says a little something about our family too. If you went out to the garage at our house, you would see a couple things that maybe didn't belong there either, such as baby food jars or coffee cans. Those were things we also reused to store items in. Baby food jars especially useful because they are transparent and you can see what you have stored in there. But coffee cans more sturdy for heavier things, nuts and bolts. And it was just sort of a way of life. I think a lot of that, for those of you that maybe saw my last community moment where I talked about my grandparents and how they migrated west during the Depression, during the Dust Bowl. I think a lot of this idea of reuse and keeping these sorts of things on hand came from that idea that they lived with, or their reality of the time where you just never knew where you might get your next, who knows what, next container, next meal, next whatever. So you never know was a sentence I heard repeatedly in childhood. And what it meant was, we're going to save this, we're going to reuse it because, we don't know what happens next. So we might need this at some point. So that's sort of the foundation and the framework of how I began to really think about reusing, recycling. Those were just kind of the early seeds of that. I think next the slide is, composting. So if you see there on the left-hand side, that is a picture of an apple bin. That's when apples are hand-picked. They're then put into these bins. You can see in the bottom, it's like a pallet. So it's designed to be lifted by a fork truck so you can haul your apples to the warehouse. A lot of times these are made of plastic now, but back in my day, these were made of wood always, and that is what served as our compost bin. It's very similar to what you might have seen at my grandparents and my parents and my house growing up, is this rainbow sherbet container. Again, a symbol of reuse there, where all the kitchen scraps that are compostable would go into that, and that just sits there on the counter until it gets full. And then back in the day would head out to the apple bin. And with that giant, that was the smaller garden, but we had about 2 acres of vegetable garden and used a lot of compost. And so the compost would regularly get turned over in the apple bin to help it decompose, and so we could use it in the garden. Here on the right is the picture of my current compost tumbler by my raised beds in my yard. So that's just one kind of small way that you can keep these sort of items, these food waste items that are, that will decompose out of the landfill. Because otherwise, for most people, if you don't put them down the garbage disposal, they just end up in a trash bag, which really does a disservice to what trash should be used for, and also you're not getting the most use out of those kinds of things. Okay, here is a picture. Wow, a picture of my trash. I should have probably cleaned off my trash can lid a little bit. But this is just to demonstrate some of the many things that get recycled at my house. You'll see in the front there is a bin for Ripple, for glass that's processed by the Ripple company here in Kansas City Metro. That's the bin we put that in. To the far right is our commingled recycling, and that comes, we have a bin right here at our house. To the far left, of course, is my trash can. Our goal is to, or my goal, what I keep in my head, is to have less than one, what I would consider actual trash bag full of waste that would go to a landfill. In the center is kind of a new thing that I've been doing. That is called, the orange liner that you see there is called a hefty energy bag, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But all those plastic things that you get, you see there's like a chip package, I think like an Amazon Prime piece of bubble wrap. Looks like maybe the outside plastic wrapping to some paper towels. Those sorts of things all go now into this hefty energy bag. There was a little bit of controversy about that we'll talk about, but first of all, I think I'm just going to go ahead. So these are all the things that are recycled here at my house. First, though, before we get into the energy bag, I want to just play briefly a video about our very own homegrown Ripple glass recycling.
When recycled glass arrives at the processing facility, it's weighed and dumped into outdoor storage areas. Processing the glass begins when a loader scoops it up and drops it into a hopper, about 1 ton at a time. The glass flows onto a conveyor belt and into the facility, where magnets and the human eye are used to remove non-glass items like porcelain, ceramic, and cans. The glass is then fed into a crusher and broken into small pieces. It passes through a dryer to remove moisture from the labels, and a delabeling machine uses paddles to gently remove the labels. Once the labels are removed, the glass is ready for optical sorting. This computer-driven machine uses beams of light to find items that are not glass. Every second, 15 bottles or jars run past this amazing machine. When a non-glass item is spotted, the machine fires a strong pulse of air to reject it. The glass then moves on to another optical sorter, programmed to look for colors. This machine looks for brown or amber glass. Once again, when it sees a piece of amber glass, It fires a strong puff of air to separate it from the rest of the glass. This amber glass is used to make new glass bottles, including those used by Boulevard Brewing Company. The remaining glass is then fed into a machine that crushes it down to the size of coarse sand. We call this furnace-ready cullet. Each day, trucks are filled with this cullet and delivered to a nearby manufacturer, where the cullet is used to make fiberglass insulation, helping to create more energy-efficient homes and buildings. Every bottle counts. To learn how you can make a ripple, visit rippleglass.com.
Okay. So that's, I don't know if anybody had seen that video before. Oop, wait,
Energy efficient.
let's see it again. No, just kidding. Yeah, but it's fascinating. That happens right down in Northeast Kansas City. Sarah and I drove by it not that long ago. I didn't realize that was one of the locations where they do that glass reclamation and sorting. So I would encourage anyone that maybe doesn't think about recycling or doesn't do a lot with recycling. That is a very efficient reuse right there. Yeah, drink beer in bottles. Is that my message? No, but maybe it is. So drink beer in bottles, because those are, directly reused, especially the dark amber kind, but also made into insulation. So two very useful streams that particular recycling takes. Okay, so now I'm going to show this one's even shorter, about the Hefty Energy Bag Program, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that.
The Hefty Energy Bag Program allows communities to collect these different household plastics, the kind you've always just thrown away, in order to reuse them as new energy resources. Here's how it works. Everything you've always recycled keeps going in your recycle bin. But now, all of these plastic items can be collected in your Hefty Energy Bag. Simply rinse the items clean and put them in the Hefty Energy Bag. Just remember, if it's plastic, if you don't bin it, bag it. When the bag is full, close it securely and drop it in your recycling bin and start filling a new bag.
Okay, we're going to stop there because the caveat to that is not happening in Kansas City. This is actually a pilot program that is happening in Omaha, Nebraska. And there was like I said, there was a little bit of controversy with this because originally when this program was piloted, some of this material got sent to a cement kiln here in Kansas City, a place where they make cement items out of cement, and they were using it as an alternative to coal because it burns hotter and cleaner than coal. But that was not really the intent, because that still, has carbon implications. So now what happens with these items is they're put through a process, and let's hope I can pronounce it right, called pyrolysis, which is a thermochemical treatment in which plastic is exposed to high temperatures in the absence of oxygen, and it goes through chemical and physical separation into different molecules. It converts it into new products, even transportation fuels, naphtha and wax. And what they can do with also some of the remnant of that after that process is that they use it to make plastic lumber. So that's sort of a way some people are leaning in the, like deck making and fence posts and all those sorts of things. Plastic lumber is kind of one way that those sorts of plastics are being reused. So that's, I think, quite interesting. So, like I said at the beginning, there are some people that are like, is it really making a difference? And to me, when we think about our community value of meaning comes from making a difference. I'm very much someone that lives in the present. I try to practice always being mindful and present when I do things and do them with intention. And one of my intentions is to be a good steward of this little piece of the planet that I live on, as well as it just helps me think more fully about, as I'm standing by my little sorting area, putting the different things in to be recycled or reused in different ways. It just kind of helps me be a little bit more mindful about the ways in which that I use the resources I have and what I'm doing with those. I would say also another, and I think I'm done with that part. Another thing that we have done in conjunction with organizations like Micah Ministries, we reuse pill bottles and vitamin bottles. I think we've made calls for those before, but what happens with those are not easily recyclable, especially prescription bottles. You are not supposed to put those in recycling bins because of the potential medication residue on them. However, Maureen and a team of folks collect those. Maureen, for the most part, is the one that gets all the labels off them. If you want to take your labels off in advance, I know she's always very grateful for already cleaned bottles. But that's one way that we can give those items another life beyond single use. We refill them, or she refills them with shampoo, conditioner, lotion, and body wash for houseless people, or the working poor, various people that can't afford hygiene products. That's one way that we can do that, as well as for the most part, I've always tried to use reusable shopping bags. That in some places has not been an option during COVID. They didn't want you to bring in your own bags. I try to default to paper because then I can recycle that fairly easily. But if you do end up with plastic shopping bags, we can take those at Micah as well. But Brittany, also at Jewish Family Services, they're always looking for bags that they can distribute items from their food and hygiene and clothing pantry there as well. So with that being said, I know there's a lot of thoughts, and I'm seeing there's a lot of comments in the thread that I haven't had a chance to read through. But even if there's some percentage of it, or if it's a high percentage that doesn't go to its intended function as a recycled thing, I still feel okay about that, because again, like I said, I feel like just being mindful about resources and what we're doing and how we're either contributing or just neglecting to contribute to perhaps better functioning of our world, I think is just as important. So that's that. We'll take questions if anybody has any questions.
I think there was just a lot of discussion in the chat, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Also, first off, thank you, Julie, for putting that together. I personally had to write a grad school paper about sustainability, teaching sustainability to children last night. So your presentation was very apt to me. And also, just fun fact, so the pyrolysis, to lice means to explode. So which makes sense after the description that you gave.
Fire good, pyro. No, I don't know. Okay.
Because you're separating, you're pulling apart those resources. So you're because to lice, when we're talking about cells, means to explode cells. So like pyrolysis would mean to explode with fire. I thought you would enjoy that tidbit.
I do. Well, and here's the last little bit of nerdness that I will say about this whole thing is that I put the stuff in the orange bags. I am in Omaha quite frequently doing things. I drive my trash to Omaha and let them melt it down up there. So now the level of my, I don't know if it has to do with, a sense of order to the world, but that is just a little tidbit about the orange bags also get to travel with me occasionally.
Yeah, trash gets to
see the world. Why not?
It gets a vacation before it gets exploded.
Turned into plastic lumber. So
well, thank you so much, Julie. And before we head to breakout rooms, I would not be doing my job very well if I didn't put in a plug for community moments. So if you envision yourself doing something like Julie just did, reach out to Mark Dixon. He is the one who organizes community moments. So if you have a story you want to tell, some interesting hobby, whatever it is, we want to hear about it. We give you about 10 minutes to do that in, and we would love to hear from you. So without further ado, I am going to place you into breakout rooms. And if you've never been with us before, or if you've only been with us a couple of times, this is where you get chat rouletted into a breakout room with somebody maybe you don't know, maybe you do know them. Except this is the PG version. So this will be about 10 minutes, and we will see you back here after you get acquainted with somebody new or reconnect with somebody you already know. All right, welcome back. Seeing those numbers go up, people flooding back. I hope you all got to chat with somebody new, or if you didn't get to chat with somebody new, you got to get reacquainted with somebody you know, whether that's a friend or enemy or frenemy or traveler from another timeline. I hope you had a good coffee break. So, with that, I would like to invite Jess back to play us one more song before we head into our featured speaker.
Okay, well, that was a really fun breakout room. I'm gonna play this song that Folk Alliance International did a concert for International Music Day, and they commissioned some artists to write a song, and I was one of them. And so this song is called oh crap, I forgot the name of my own song. Well, we'll let you decide what it's called then. But this song, I was inspired because I was thinking about how I wanted you to kind of imagine a room, like I think of it as an attic, like a long attic, dusty and wood and all of that. And at the end of the attic is a trunk. And in the trunk is you open it and you find the story of the life of somebody that is really close to you. And you learn all of the things about them, not just the things they wanted you to know. And we all are kind of doing this, right? We show people what we think that they will accept of us. For the most part, we're giving a very filtered version of our life. And so I was thinking about how and maybe sometimes it's not so filtered. Maybe you have a really painful experience with somebody, or maybe you've had that moment where you've learned something like that just completely, that cold feeling in your stomach when your like perception of somebody just is completely destroyed, or maybe they broke your heart and did something in a massive betrayal to you, and you learn something about that person in that moment, and you're forced to move forward with this information and figure out how to like take it in, right, and what to do with it. And there's several parts about this song that I like to talk about, which is our perception of our own lives and how we are being honest with other people about who we are, which I talked about actually before we went on to when I was just doing a sound check a little bit, and having humility with the human experience and accepting ourselves and other people's for the incredibly fallible creatures that we are, and also learning forgiveness and how to move forward with wisdom from the painful things that you can learn from the experiences you have with other people. And so, like I said, I evidently can't remember the name of my own song right now, but I'm going to let you name it. You can put suggestions in the comments. All right. There's a trunk in the attic, locked like a room, with a box full of memories waiting for you. There are pictures and letters, a story is told, the life of a person that you didn't know. And sometimes it's the people you think you know the best are the ones with all the memories that they've laid to rest. If you look inside and find the lies, the pain in your chest will knock you to the ground, but the broken sound is the only thing left. Open your eyes, close the chest, take what you need and forgive the rest. You've got to believe that they've done their best. The lessons you've learned are worth the regrets. has something to hide. We all have a few things we'd like to deny. You can try and forget it, and you can push it away. There's gonna be some demons that we know are here to stay. And sometimes it's the people that you think you know the best are the ones with all the memories that they've laid to rest. If you look inside and find the lies, the pain in your chest will knock you to the ground, and the broken sound's the only thing left. Open your eyes, close the chest, take what you need, and forgive the rest. You've got to believe that they've done their best. The lessons you've learned are worth the regrets. Open your eyes, close the chest, take what you need, and forgive the rest. You've got to believe that they've done their best. The lessons you've learned were worth the regrets. All right. Thank you. I'm excited to see where the comments are.
Yeah, you've got a few name suggestions for that song. So, feel free to pick any one of those or combine them all somehow. That was awesome.
Thank
Um,
you.
you definitely got the silent clap. Just pretend like you're in a silent movie and that there's like a header saying that everybody clapped.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We will hear from you again at the end of our program.
Perfect. Okay, see you guys in a bit.
All right. So that has brought us to our featured speaker for today. And if I can find him on here, I can highlight him. So Ben is here to talk about Satanism for us. And I know a few of us have been waiting for this talk for a very long time. So we are excited that you are here, Ben. I will let you introduce yourself and I will shut up for the moment. So go ahead,
right.
take it away.
Okay. Hi, I am Ben Kacirek. Sorry, my cat just attacked my hand. I've been identifying as a Satanist for about 4 or 5 years now, and I've really kind of dove into not just the aesthetic, but also the research into the philosophy and I still call it a spiritual practice, and we'll kind of get into is it spiritual? Is it a religion? I leave that to individuals because ultimately Satanism is a super individualistic religion and practice. So yeah, let's get right into it, and I will share my screen. All right, am I projecting?
Yes.
Okay, I can't see the chat while I'm on full screen for the slideshow, so hopefully I'll get to those questions after I'm done going through this. So I want to go through Satanism, but kind of at its origins and current modern practice. This is a picture of Baphomet, a little background here. This was probably it's a symbol used a lot by modern Satanists. However, it was actually probably a corruption of the French misunderstanding the word Muhammad, and the whole centuries-long phone game eventually became Baphomet, and then it was used to smear the Knights Templar, and we'll get to that in the history. So with the history of Satanism, it is, as a religion, is actually modern. You might think, well, why? Hasn't there always been Satanism in various forms? And that's actually untrue. No one self-identified as a Satanist much before the 1960s. This is an inherently post-war thing. Accusations of Satanism usually resulted in persecution and death. Obviously, in the Salem witch trials, while not being accused of Satanism, but being in league with the devil, was used to smear one's opponents, often also used against women accused of witchcraft, because witches were considered consorts of the devil. And then, as sort of a literary figure, kind of getting away from the realm of religion, you have, of course, the seminal work of Dante's Inferno and Satan as this figure of evil in literature. And that starts to change over time with the Romantics of the Renaissance, painting Satan as more of an anti-hero and a figure of rebellion against authority and a sort of bringer of knowledge. And it finally wasn't really until Anton LaVey founded the Church of Satan that people started openly saying, I am a Satanist. He was a circus performer, and what he would find is that he would perform in circuses, and some of these traveling circuses also had things like nude shows, early essentially traveling strippers. And he would find the same men attending his circus performances, then going to church, because he was proficient in the organ, and he'd go play church organ for the same men the very next day in the pews. He found that, of course, rather hypocritical, and viewed that the ultimate way of existing was that God was not real to him, and that he was going to focus on himself and the satisfaction of his own ego. So that culminated in the Church of Satan, brought together some occult practices and theatrics, because obviously he was with the traveling carnival. Atheistic philosophies kind of centered on the self, unfortunately, highly influenced by the rationalist beliefs of Ayn Rand. And however, he still does harbor, Church of Satan still does harbor beliefs in the occult, despite not acknowledging the existence of any sort of deity or higher god. Now, the aesthetics and theatricality of that early church still influences modern Satanism today and other underground cultures. Obviously, I enjoy pentagrams. I also enjoy lots of metal music, and they love to take those symbols. Some bands actually do believe in this. Some use it for shock value. Some just think it looks cool. So while you had occultists that still believed in like an actual practice of magic, that sort of belief kind of petered off as we move further along. So current satanic practices are sort of divided into two large groups, and this is a very big generalization, because the more you dive in, once again, as a hyper individualistic sort of religion and philosophy, you ask a different Satanist, you're going to get a different answer. There is no orthodoxy, unless you're still in the Church of Satan, which still exists, but they are far more insular than some of the more modern groups. So some of the non-theistic groups are the Satanic Temple. This one has been in the news the most. And then, of course, the Church of Satan. They also do some things on Twitter, but they're not nearly as active. Some theistic groups include Luciferians, which sort of modify this idea of Satan as he was the correct deity, it was wrong. There's influenced by Gnosticism. I can't really speak to that. Oh, come here. Sorry, my cat just walked across my keyboard. And these groups I'm not super familiar with, so I can't really speak to their, whoop, did I get muted?
No, you're good.
Okay, I saw a little bell and I thought I got muted by my cat. So I can't really speak to their beliefs and practices, other than that they do generally acknowledge some sort of higher power, where that higher power is of course, non-malevolent view of Lucifer, that he is a bringer of light and knowledge, but also magic and other powers that I won't get into because, like I said, I haven't really done research on them. And then we'll kind of fast forward, kind of skip the times in the 70s and 80s, and go to 2012, where the dominant satanic group has really been the Satanic Temple. They draw on a mix of atheistic humanism and that old satanic philosophy of rituals focused on reaffirming the self, but also being aggressively political. Founded back in 2012, they did it to mock the religious protection laws in schools that were forced by Governor Rick Scott in Florida, where they wanted prayer in school. And so Satanists showed up on the court steps and said, great, we're going to have some satanic prayers in schools and it's protected by law. It was a way of really holding up a mirror to these, what I view as Christian protectionism and Christian encroachment beyond the separation of church and state. And while it certainly was a theatrical thing, it quickly coalesced into an organized group. They codified their tenets, and then began suing to get equal representation on public ground. They sued in Oklahoma and Arkansas to have the statue of Baphomet given equal footing with the 10 Commandment statues that were being put up. I don't remember the exact end of these court cases. Most of the time they ended with the 10 Commandments coming down rather than giving equal representation to Satanists, which I guess is a win, because you shouldn't be putting religious monuments in a publicly owned government state-run entity when you have other faiths. I mean, would a Jew or a Muslim like to see the 10 Commandments when they go step into a courthouse? As an atheist, I certainly didn't. It's like, am I going to get an impartial trial, or am I going to be impartially treated when I need to take up these? So those lawsuits started getting them more and more attention. They recently begun litigation in the states of Missouri and Texas for violating the religious rights of members seeking an abortion. Specifically in Texas, they're suing after they created what they called was a religious ritual abortion for members to recite as sort of personal affirmation. And I will go ahead and share that to sort of demystify a modern satanic ritual. And where new share, ritual abortion procedure. Am I sharing the PDF?
It looked like it was trying to do it, and it's not.
It's not. Is that working now?
Yes.
Okay. So at its fundamental core, it is a self-reflective, self-reaffirming ritual. So for a medical abortion, reflect on yourself and your personhood and your right to inviolability, and then begin the ritual, which is just taking the medications. And after you have done that, recite, we'll go to the tenets later, return to your reflection, recite the personal affirmations of your autonomy and free will, and that ritual is now complete. That's it. And it can be as complicated or as incomplicated as you want. It doesn't involve drawing pentagrams in blood and lighting candles, which is the usual sort of stereotype of Satanists. And this is, to me, a religious ritual, and therefore protected by these religious protection laws, because any closely held belief, in my view, is a religion and a spiritual practice. And I will have links for this entire process PDF after my presentation for those that are interested. And let's go back to my other screen. Right, from current slide. And now we'll get to what is called the 7 fundamental tenets of the Satanic Temple. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures within reason. What really drew me to the Satanic Temple after being a self-avowed atheist for probably the better part of my life after I got into college was the struggle for justice is ongoing and necessary and should prevail over laws and institutions. One's body is inviolable and subject to one's own will alone. The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend, and to willingly and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. Another one that really drew me to it was beliefs should conform to the best scientific understanding of the world. Do not distort those facts to fit your own beliefs. I do have to give kudos for Oasis for very early on respecting the science of the pandemic and going virtual. As much as I enjoyed being in person and interacting with everyone, it is and was and continues to conform to science, and groups that do that will always have my backing. And another one that is, people are fallible and you make mistakes, try to rectify any harm that may have been caused, but it is not this sort of inherent, you are broken and need the grace of a higher power to be saved. It's, you are a person, you make mistakes, try to resolve it. And then every tenet is just a principle. Compassion, wisdom, and justice will always prevail over anything that is written. There is no dogma with this form of Satanism. And this is kind of where I view a lot of the humanism that influenced the development of these tenets. Moving on to my personal satanic practices. For me, he also represents rebellion against arbitrary authority, that romantic era view of the anti-hero. Because we have a lot of people in positions of authority that feel the need to inject their brand of Christianity into the public and governmental sphere more and more these days. And from my perspective, if God and the supernatural do not exist, yet I sort of felt, I wouldn't call it a hole, but just an inkling that ritual and spiritual practice are still fundamental to the human experience, and then refocusing on the self and undoing that inherently broken spiritual narrative was a healthy process and continues to be a healthy process for me. With no cosmic force guiding my life, but if I'm going to have a God, why not make that God yourself, not in a narcissistic sort of way, but in a positive, self-affirming way, that I do in fact have the power to venerate myself in a healthy way. And I was giving an explanation to some friends about Satanism after I kind of came out to them. I'm like, well, it's a bit of a way of viewing yourself worthy of worship and giving yourself some spooky self-esteem, because I do enjoy taking on the trappings of pentagrams and these other satanic and Luciferian style symbols, because I also enjoy the aesthetic. And there was also quite a bit in the media of atheism just being accused of being a satanic in the first place. And if I'm going to be called a Satanist for not believing in God and fighting for secular equality, then I might as well just say, fine, I'm a Satanist, give me some pentagrams, and I'm going to get a little more confrontational because I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines. So further reading and other media. The Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey was really the foundational text. It's a little wonky because he still does believe in the power of occult magic. But it is an important foundational document to understanding the philosophical underpinnings of the gratification of the self and saying no to what he calls psychic vampires. So the bullies, the narcissists, the people that constantly overstep boundaries you've set with them and are just draining you, and that they are not worth your time, and you don't have to be around them anymore. You can focus on yourself and do that in a healthy way. Another really good book was The Happy Satanist by Lilith Starr. It documents her life journey going from Harvard to an addict to recovery, using her philosophical and spiritual Satanism, that it, while not necessarily a member of the Satanic Temple, and neither am I, greatly influenced by the 7 tenets. And if you want to know specifically more about the Satanic Temple and their rise, the Hail Satan documentary on Hulu is a great resource for that. And with that, I am open to some questions. Let me go ahead and bring up the chat, because I'm assuming I need to see some chat here.
Well, and I can also read them to you. If you just unshare your screen, that would be amazing.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you. So first off, thank you so much for coming and doing this today. I know
You're welcome.
I know I've been pestering you for a hot second.
Well, I should have done it earlier, but it's the whole stage fright thing.
You know what? I get it. I trust me, I understand, but they still make me get up here and do this a couple times a month. So welcome to my universe. We do have a few questions in the chat. So David, who was super excited, he's been asking forever for a Satanist to come speak to us. His first question is, Satanists disrupted a 10 Commandment monument in Oklahoma a few years back. Were they local to Oklahoma, or were they part of the national organization or network?
I believe that was the national network. At the time, they didn't have a headquarters, but they are now headquartered in Salem, Massachusetts. And it really was an organic sort of thing. It was less organized. Also, self-identified Satanists have a little bit of hard time finding lawyers, and none of them will work for free. So the legal cases have been ongoing but slow, because their primary source of income is, some people will pay a dues. You can just join and get a card that says you're a Satanist. That's it. That's all you have to do. And the card comes with the 7 tenets on it, and I still carry it despite not being an active member anymore. They mainly get the funding from merchandise sales to fund these.
I mean, if you've got good merch,
Yep,
that's key, right?
mm-hmm.
So we also have another question down here about. So Roger is asking. He's saying, this reminds me somewhat of the Flying Spaghetti Monster cult, Pastafarianism. If you're familiar with the group, could you compare Satanism with it?
I actually am, because I self-identified as a Pastafarian for about 5 years before I became a Satanist. In my view, the Pastafarianism was much more of a joke, which is, of course, jokes are funny, but when you walk into the DMV saying, I want to wear a colander on my head, you tend to get laughed at. And in a way, it was also just less offensive to be a Pastafarian. And if you want to get headlines for religious equality, one way is to adopt the trappings of their arch enemy. Where now, most of and specifically the Satanic Temple, they don't believe in a literal devil. Christians believe in a literal metaphysical devil. I do not. I adopt these symbols because it's a symbol of rebellion and open thought. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. But yes, I have a lot of Pastafarian friends. I mean, and there also isn't any conflicting ways of identifying as a Pastafarian, as a Satanist. You can do both. I will still say, oh, have you been touched by his noodly appendage?
Yeah, you can merge those two. Maybe the flying spaghetti monster is a good friend of Satan.
I would think so. I think
You
he
know,
really would.
or they're probably arch rivals. Well, I mean, I guess if he's noodly, he's already been heated up in water and all of that. That's a terrible joke. I'm gonna stop. So my kind of, so you kind of touched on this a little bit, but Satanism is a relatively new concept of like organized religion. I'll say it that way because I don't have a better way to say it. But back in the 80s, I want to believe, with the whole Satanic Panic, probably earlier. It started earlier than that. Can you speak to that a little bit about the Satanic Panic?
Yes, I can, because there's actually a subgroup, a different charitable group called the Gray Faction that was devoted to fighting pseudoscience and specifically these Satanic Panic. No one accused of that was actually a Satanist, and the child abuses were discovered through this now discredited repressed memory therapy, and I don't believe anyone was ever convicted for it. And first of all, the ones who were convicted identified as Christians. And without getting into a lot of the sociological research about what causes these moral panics as society shifts, because we had the sexual revolution of the late 60s and then more women joining the workforce in the 70s, that caused the patriarchal women stay home society to fear the dissolution of the family unit. And then they needed an outlet for that. And that became Satanists abusing children. In my personal opinion, that was a convenient scapegoat because there was a lot of abuse of children by the clergy at this time. And that is documented fact. If we have lawsuits, then there's Archdiocese of Kansas City. I think there's a pretty high ranking Kansas City, not a cardinal, but a bishop who's now in prison for cover-ups of that. So whenever you have a society changing away from a traditional structure, you often find scapegoats. And Satanists have never sit around and are sacrificing people. Theatrically, yes, because it's provocative. But no, most of the people who were doing the abuse was the Catholic Church. Of course, I grew up hearing about it because as a young nerd, I loved Dungeons and Dragons. And they're like, oh, you're going to turn into a Satan worshiper. I'm like, no, Dungeons and Dragons didn't turn me into a Satan worshiper. Christianity did.
I feel like that's a good that's a good enrollment call for Satanism. Be like, you don't like Christianity, come join us.
Yes. And then especially going back to the even further with the whole music panic and playing records backwards and backmasking, and I just get this ironic joy now that I've also gotten into metal, which heavy metal and Satanism kind of go together, at least in some genres. And now I just listen to overtly satanic metal bands. I'm like, there's no hidden messages here. They're saying "Hail Satan," throwing up the horns, and it's a great time. And all the Satanists I've met have been great people. Admittedly, I hang out with mostly of the TST aligned. I left out of my presentation. The Church of Satan is kind of insular. You actually have to pay a fee to join. They sort of take, in my opinion, that focus on the self a little too far. But I'm not going to disparage anyone else's beliefs, but I don't identify with them. And another thing I need to bring up, and that is a legitimate problem in some satanic circles, as much as I wish to say, oh, it's just overblown, is Nazism. There were neo-Nazis who gravitated towards satanic symbolism in the 90s, and have formed these neo-pagan, theistic, satanic groups that you do have to watch out for. I know their symbols because I'm almost always on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate watch group. So I can, because these groups don't want to be known. And so they communicate via their symbology. And if you know their symbology, you can, one, stay away from them and then keep an eye on them. There's kind of a push to get them out of the satanic scene. And with the Satanic Temple being a very humanistic sort of view, I have not met any of them personally, but I know that they exist. So there is that, and I cannot deny that they exist in this community somewhere.
And I think that's every community, which is just something to be aware of, right? In every community, there's somebody going to be trying to take advantage of somebody else, and
Yes.
masquerade more or less behind rather innocent beliefs or values, and use it for their own insidious nature, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, it really does. And that's also kind of what neo-Nazis tend to do, is they try to infiltrate a subculture, especially a provocative one, because they figure, oh, we're provocative too, we want to be provocative, but that's not the same. It's so far I have not met any, and I wouldn't hang around any, and I would be like, get away from me. But I did feel the need to address that, because if you do more research, you will eventually find groups like the Order of the Nine Angles, or groups like the Order, I think it's the Order of the Black Sun, that kind of took the whole Nazi occultism and then transformed it into some sort of Satanism. But then again, a lot of them decided we don't want any of this Judeo-Christian stuff because it involves Jews. We need to just embrace Thor, and then have corrupted that neo-pagan thing, which is upsetting because I have lots of neo-pagan friends, and I don't like having to probe my Nordic neo-pagans to make sure they're the non-racist kind of neo-pagans. Just like I wouldn't be offended if someone had to probe me if well, what kind of Satanist are you? I would get offended if they called me a child sacrificer. That would be offensive. But a valid worry is well, are you one of the humanistics kind or one of the other kind? And a very small minority, but they are out there.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your presentation. And we have one last request.
Okay.
And it is to show us your cat.
Oh, okay. Hey, come here, Mango. He's been hanging out at my feet instead of walking on the keyboard. This is Mango. He's a little orange boy who I just adopted, and he's already getting big. He's not really a kitten anymore. He'll probably try to bite me if I try to pick him up again. But here he is with his little bow tie. Yep, and he's trying to bite his bow tie. He's my snuggly little orange boy. Marigold's my older cat, who is in no mood to be interrupted from her grooming routine right now.
That's fair. You should never interrupt a cat when they are cleaning their backside. That's rude.
Do I have time to address one more question?
Sure, yes.
And that's the David question about the hostility from Christians. I know we want less superstition in the world, but at the same time, at least my own personal view is that provoking hostility really forces certain groups who, in my opinion, want to dominate the public sphere. They say, we're going to put these 10 commandments, or we're going to put nativity scenes up. And then they skirt the establishment clause by saying, oh, it is a free speech forum. Anyone can put something up. Well, what they want is they want token representation from Muslims and Jews. They get their symbols, and then that's it. But as soon as someone as scary as a Satanist shows up, they say, no, you can't do it. And then either we do lawsuits or they acquiesce and we get to do a ritual. And some of these rituals, I actually participated in a ritual, what was called the destruction ritual, where we all gathered around a bonfire in all of our spooky masks, and we wrote on pieces of paper just for us. We didn't have to share it with anyone. What was something that we wanted to overcome and destroy? And then after saying words of affirmation, we all circled the fire and cast these into the fire to destroy and cleanse our minds of this thing. And for me at the time, it was the grief involving my mother's impending death of cancer. And that was incredibly cathartic, and in my opinion, atheistic and deeply spiritual. Did I do anything metaphysical or magical or prayer-like? No. But the act of meditating on this incredible pain and then physically destroying it in a goat effigy, because you got to be spooky with it. I get a little teary when I think about it, because just of how powerful it was and how it helped me deal with grief in a way that did not rely on the "you are broken" grander narrative of "you do not need saving, you have the power to destroy this grief and heal." So I'll kind of leave it with that.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that with us, and thank you so much again for joining us. And hopefully, I know you said you wanted to leave contact information. Feel free to put it in the chat. And thank you again so much for
Thank you.
sharing with us.
You're welcome.
So with that, it brings us to the end of our Sunday gathering. And before I invite Jess back to play us one more song, I would not be doing my job if I didn't say my contractually obligated phrase. We are a 501c3 here at Kansas City Oasis. That means we are completely volunteer run and donation run. So if you would like to support us one time or through monthly donation, you can head on over to KC Oasis and hit that donate button, set up a monthly payment or set up a one-time payment. We are grateful regardless for whatever you choose to do. So without further ado, I'm going to let Jess play us out this now afternoon.
All right, guys. The last song. This is so sad. I hate every time we have to say goodbye. I wrote this song for the Kansas City Repertory Theater. Last year, they had a Halloween-themed ghost storytelling production called Ghost Light, which they have an iteration of again this season. So if you would like to go hear ghost stories in a park, socially distanced, it's a really fun event. But they asked several artists to write songs and all along on the theme of ghost stories. And I thought everyone would take a really spooky vibe, which they did. And so I decided to go a more Casper the Friendly Ghost route with my ghost story and write this story about a little girl. And it's called Pennybrook Lane. Okay. I whistle in this, so I'm kind of, if it blasts the microphone, I'm really hoping everything works out. There once was a girl on Pennybrook Lane with curly black hair who kept her room clean, no one knows why. She fell very ill and died. They say sometimes you will see her ghost. She likes to play tricks on adults the most, laughing down hallways when she hides their keys, or being naughty, turning on the TVs. They say if you see her, she won't be in a dress. She likes to wear sneakers and a little vest, hiding in cupboards, stealing mean kids' toys, jumping in puddles and teasing little boys. Sometimes she goes back to the room where she died and kisses her parents when she sees them cry, holds her kitten and leaves them treats. Sometimes they hear her whistling. For 15 years on Pennybrook Lane, life would never be quite the same. The people they loved, their cute little ghost, until one day she left them alone. You see, her little black kitten had finally grown old, and she laid by his side as his body grew cold, patiently waiting for her little friend to finally join her and go off in the end. The next time in the night that you feel afraid, remember the girl from Pennybrook Lane, holding a kitten as she smiles back. The only thing scary is the love you hold back.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What a great way to end this Sunday. So thank you once again to Jess, Ben, and Julie for helping us out with our program this morning. Thank you all for attending, and we will see you back here next week. Have a good rest of your Sunday and have a good week. We'll see you later.